You're on your own.
Thank you for keeping me alive this long, Rick.
Yeah. Goodbye, Memory Diane.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Rick and Morty Season 8, Episode 10 finale video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, and because it is the finale, we will talk about what's happening with Season 9 and the new spin-off that they just confirmed they're doing from Rick and Morty with President Curtis, investigating weird stuff on Earth like an X-Files type of show. We will see when that winds up premiering. I assume that they're just going to use it to bridge the gap between Rick and Morty seasons in the future. Keith David is coming back for that. This episode was titled Hot Rick, which I thought of as more of a hot potato kind of reference, with him jumping across different people's minds to try and save Memory Diane, in sort of an Eternal Sunshine in the Spotless Mind kind of reference, with him trying to save the memory of Diane the same way they try to save memories in that movie. Rick and Morty loves to do movie references. They've done a lot of Eternal Sunshine references in the past, just like they've done multiple 2001 Space Odyssey references in this episode and in previous episodes. This whole episode was basically Rick finally coming to terms with his problems with commitment, realizing that it has nothing to do with his dead wife. It kind of seems like the episode is also dedicated to him permanently moving past that, like it won't always be referencing his wife all the time in future seasons now. They start the cold open with Rick getting it on with Bug Ann. She's cameoed many times in the past since Season 4. They'd implied that they had had an earlier relationship, but they had still a lot of chemistry when the events of Episode 1 were going down, so this is just paying off that bit, like they just get it on, like they're friends with benefits. She wants to make it more serious, invites him to her family tournament. They kind of make it seem like their family are Klingons, but bugs. She references his wife, his problems with commitment. The bit about him not being able to get close to anyone since her death is also the show kind of making fun of Rick, because this has been a running gag across all the seasons, him referencing his dead wife and his trauma from that. Rick reminds everyone about Rick Prime's Omega device that erased every version of Diane from the multiverse, also messing with his mind and Beth's minds, causing them to forget aspects of their life with her. Notice, though, that he only mentions Beth in the singular, though, like he doesn't say the Beths. There's a funny bit about them being super freaky, like, no, I'm putting on more new sex clothes. Then we go to the family watching Cake or Fake again on interdimensional cable. This time it's Celebrity Edition. They've also watched it 3 times before this, if you include the Fear Hole version of the family. On this episode, Mr. Stabby is the celebrity guest. He's from Season 7. Space Beth makes a joke about being bisexual. Crapping where she eats is a reference to Rick both being super freaky, which he is, and also her munching a lot of rug, implying that she's also got it on with Bug Ann. This is also why House Beth smiles while Space Beth is saying that, because the two of them have got it on with each other. Like Space Beth has eaten her some House Beth. They're both super narcissistic, just like Rick. Like that's the most narcissistic thing you could do, getting it on with another version of yourself. The apple does not fall far from the tree. He makes another joke about Space Beth being the clone one. That's just the show not wanting to 100% commit to which version is the actual clone. Like they do this every single season. In the past, Dan Harmon made it sound like he actually did have an idea about which one was the actual clone and implied which one that was. But then in later years, he sort of walked that back and made it sound like he didn't want to commit because he wants the theory crafting to continue. They both reference Rick being hung up on his wife, their mother, the second reference to her in the episode, setting up the later part of the episode. Jerry, huge fan of the Cake or Fake show, catches them up on what they've just missed because they've been busy making fun of Rick. Turns out it was a real baby this time on the show, and Mr. Stabby killed the baby and has since been canceled, like in cancel culture. R.I.P. to that baby. Also kind of makes it sound like at the post-credit scene that Mr. Poopy Butthole, the memory version of him, is also going to be killed too.
What would you have us do with him?
They start setting up all the jokes with Memory Rick when Jerry thinks that Rick invented peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. He was there for Morty's birth, their wedding, all the big memories from the past. Even Rick thinks it's weird and hooks him up to a different looking type of mind scanning device. Like there are a lot of Morty's mind blowers references in the episode. He used a lot of that technology as part of what happens through the episode. They watch his memories, and he figures out that it's all about Memory Rick. They start with Jerry's memory of their wedding. Notice she's pregnant with Summer during the wedding. We've seen Rick looking like this in previous flashbacks. They explain this later because this version of Memory Rick is from one of Bird Person's memories of when he first met Rick. This is what Rick looked like when they were first together. This episode is notable as being one of the few times that they skip the regular intro and just do the title card. They've done it multiple times in the past, but it's not something they do all the time. They show Jerry's memory of Summer's birth. Rick then explains that he's only a memory of him, Memory Rick, at his most passionate and heroic. A bit about Bird Person remembering Rick at his most passionate. There are a lot of references to their previous relationship together, like very, very complicated relationship between Bird Person and Rick, saying that this version of Memory Rick jumped from Bird Person's mind to his and then to Jerry's during the events of Season 7 when they swapped minds briefly. Notice Rick also references last season of the show literally breaking the fourth wall again. He pulls out what looks like a computer that's an actual living brain. It's basically like a brain trap for Memory Rick, saying that Jerry basically has memory cancer. They set up the bit with Memory Rick really liking a lot of old-timey tech with his car driving them home from the hospital with Summer as a baby. Rick uses his device to extract Memory Rick from Jerry's mind and put him in that brain prison. That visualize the containment device is the 2001 Space Odyssey reference to Dave evolving by passing through the wormhole and into the Star Child. The incest baby from previous seasons was also a Star Child reference. It's such a famous movie, it gets parodied and referenced in so many other movies and TV shows all the time. They've even parodied this particular scene in previous seasons of Rick and Morty. When Memory Rick runs outside of the room here and you see the house and the fields around him, this is all based on a Star Trek Next Generation episode called The Survivors, where an advanced alien created a replica of his former life with the woman that he loved as a memorial to her after she died, but none of it was real, like it was all just his fictional creation. This also sets up the ending of the episode, so the episode itself ends like that Star Trek Next Generation episode. When Jerry starts realizing what's going on, I love that the first thing that he realizes is his crushing disappointment that Rick did not invent peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like, Jerry absolutely loves PB&J, just can't believe that Rick wasn't the person that actually created it. He resets Jerry's memories, Morty's mind blower style, so he's back to how he felt about Rick before. Like, he liked him, but was not really close to him in the way that he was just a couple moments ago. Housebeth inadvertently makes a reference to Morty's mind blowers, setting up her bit later in the episode because she's a big part of the episode when she's impressed that he can just suck out bad memories. Also because Rick has probably used Morty's mind blowers on her many times before and she doesn't remember it because he took the memory of him taking them out of her. When Summer also asks Rick to use it on her to take the memory of her bad boyfriends away, she also mentions Peter Casey was way too into lizards. The reason why Rick stops in his tracks, though, is because he suspects something is up with Memory Rick. The other bit here, too, is that Peter Casey is a real-life screenwriter who worked on the Cheers TV show, and during Comic-Con this past weekend, as of me posting this video, the Rick and Morty cast did a big panel like they always do at Comic-Con and sung the Cheers song with the crowd.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name. Bum, bum, bum.
Regular Rick then comes up with the idea to actually move forward in his life by literally removing the last remaining memory of his dead wife from his mind and putting it in a similar type of brain prison. Notice the Morty's Mind Blowers colored vials behind it, but this is a new room that we haven't been to in the sub-basement before. But it does rely on a lot of Morty's Mind Blowers tech. There are a couple other locked cases in the background too. Like there's one with a bunch of gems on it with a padlock on it, a gold chain, and a special kryptonite looking binding device here. So you can let me know what you think is in this particular device. Whatever it is, it seems like it's supposed to be way worse than what he's doing here with Morty's Mind Blowers in the Diane plot in the episode. I kind of love how throughout the rest of the episode they break back in here Ocean's 11 style, but never reference what's happening in this case. Like it's just some mysterious, dangerous looking prison in the background, very ominous that they can just bring back in future episodes as they want. You have to remember that Rick's sub-basement has crazy numbers of levels. Like it just goes on and on and on, and we've only seen a fraction of it so far. So it's literally just a treasure trove of story for them to mine for future seasons. He hooks himself up to the Morty's Mind Blowers device and basically travels into his own locked area where he keeps his most precious memories. That's why it looks so advanced here, because these are all his most treasured memories. That's why there's so much security. This one just happens to be of Diane at a firing range. Notice she's firing at two different person-looking targets. You have to remember, she's also super hardcore, just like Rick is. They've kind of got into this in previous seasons before, like you learn a little bit more about her personality. He transfers that memory of her to the prison to make himself more emotionally open so that he might have more positive relationships with Bug-Ann, other women just in general in the future, also leaving himself the note after the fact, Memento style, only he didn't tattoo it on himself, Memento style. He calls Bug-Ann to accept her request to go to her family's tournament. Housebeth sees that Memory Rick is about ready to escape. All the springs and cogs are references to the car that he built from earlier with the springs and the cogs, and jumps into Housebeth's mind, setting up her plot in the episode. Notice the family is also eating pancakes. Again, they just joked about this in last week's episode, like, we do eat pancakes so much, what's going on with that? It's all because Rick likes pancakes. Also, you can infer from all the Morty's Mind Blowers subplot in this episode that Rick wipes their memories so often that they literally forget that they just had pancakes, so they wind up continuing just having pancakes all the time. Bug-Ann comes to meet the family and pick him up and take him to her tournament. Memory Rick then peeps what's happening from Beth's mind and learns what Rick did to his memory of Diane, coming up with a plan to rescue her from that prison. There are a lot of little jokes in the background too, like Summer in the background asks Rick why he keeps using the phrase hop off the sack so much. Like, is that a new thing that you're trying to make cool? Stop saying that so much. Stop trying to make fetch a thing. Memory Rick travels to another one of Beth's memories, and the reason why he sees Rick Prime is because Rick Prime is her original Rick. Remember, he's the one that bailed on his family, which we're basically watching the events of right here. C-137 Rick then later moved in and made them his family, except for Jerry. He came from the Jerry Baree later. Memory Rick falls through the ceiling, then does what C-137 Rick and just kind of moves in pretending to be her father. Like, oh, hey, I'm back and my hair just happens to look different. We'll have all kinds of fun rescuing your mother. Setting up the whole bit with him traveling across Beth's mind, grabbing the other versions of Beth from different times in her life to help rescue Diane. Real Rick then goes to Bug-Ann's tournament. She mentions Uncle Scoob a couple times, which is Scooby-Doo's nickname on that show, so maybe Uncle Scoob's full name is Scooby-Doo.
No one is stupid enough to believe that.
Who's the ugly old broad?
Bug-Ann apparently hates her family. Her ex-boyfriend from high school is there and looks like he wants to kill Rick, like he wants to get back with Bug-Ann for some reason. Her father is played by the big celebrity guest cameo this week. You probably recognized his voice. It's John Rhys Davies, who's done 1 billion movies and TV shows, but probably most famous for his role as Gimli in Lord of the Rings movies. He calls Rick a monkey man because they're a bug race. Humans and apes, also monkeys, have common ancestry and that we're all primates. He accidentally gets himself into the honor duel with her ex-boyfriend because premarital sex, like casual sex, is a huge deal with their race. And notice that they're fighting with Klingon bat'leths, like they're a Klingon-like society that just has weird rules about premarital stuff. The whole fight is weirdly about proving his commitment to Bug-Ann, which is also what the episode is genuinely about, like proving to himself that he's capable of actually moving forward with his life, moving on from his wife. Bug-Ann weirdly asks him to not kill Jack Poo, her ex-boyfriend. Maybe she's just trying to be nice to him. I don't think that she wants to get back with him or anything like that. Memory Rick then works up his Ocean's 11-style heist plan with the older memory of Beth at her school. She looks like she's a teenager here, like Summer's age, and she's practicing safecracking. Like, all the different versions of Beth, the different memory versions, are practicing different heist skills in their team. Then he trains up the older memory of Beth. She looks like she's college age here, and she's trained to pickpocket at a carnival. This version, fight training with him in a school auditorium, seems like a mid-20s, maybe like slightly older version. They transition to another older version, doing the fight course in the woods in her late 20s, early 30s now, running the survival course. Back in the real world, Summer then complains about Rick's piranha plants being in heat in its mating season for them. We've actually seen them in one of the sub-basement levels in previous episodes. Morty and Summer's chores also include feeding them for Rick. You remember, that's one of the ways that Morty gets access to all the cool things in Rick's vending machine. He gets credits, money, basically, to pull cool gear out of that Rick creates by doing these kinds of chores. Housebeth then, because of what's happening with all her memory versions inside her head, asks about the secrets of the sub-basement for the heist. Summer mentions he's got a Phantom Zone on level 2. That's a big Superman reference, the Phantom Zone from DC Comics. It's an alternate dimension that it is exactly what Summer says it is for dangerous stuff, but I think in context it's a reference to Zod, Ursa, and Non. When she says the vault for valuable stuff is on level 7, that's the place where he put the Morty's Mind Blowers version of Diane. When Summer says Rick keeps referencing Cannonball Run and her being tired of pretending she's seen it, that's a joke probably both to Dan Harmon in real life, talking about that in the writer's room and with his friends, and also a callback to earlier this season with the big race that they did with the aliens for the money. That was also a Mad World movie bit too. Beth then pickpockets Summer's access card because she has those skills now because of all the memories training her up. Like, she's not stronger in real life, but she has all these extra skills too, which is why she can fight Space Beth later. Memory Rick then breaks into that prison and reunites with the memory of Diane. Space Beth then comes in noticing all the discrepancies and Housebeth's memories of Rick. They have their own kung fu fight, like I said, because Housebeth has all those skills now, and she winds up beating her and snapping her neck. There's like a brief hot second when you do wonder if they're going to let her stay dead. Like, did they actually kill off Space Beth? Is the show getting rid of Space Beth? I kind of assumed in the moment that there would be some twist, like they would probably bring her back in some way because so much of her body had been modified, which Rick then pays off later when he fixes her spine. Like, this is why you have a robot spine, so that we can fix you real easily.
Easy, Slugger. You're lucky you've got a robot spine.
It's kind of the same deal with Rick himself. Like, he's modified his body so much that it is very, very hard to actually permakill him. When he mentions the ant farm brain, that's a callback to the Star Trek Next Generation episode, and it's Memory Rick basically saying that he wants to end things the same way that the alien did in that Next Generation episode, where the two of them just live out their lives in this created place. Which also winds up happening at the end of the episode, like C-137 Rick wants them to be happy and lets that all play out. Memory Rick's heist plan then starts to collapse when Memory Diane meets one of the memories of Beth in training, causing her to crash out by becoming self-aware in a way that she wasn't before, going around then collecting all the other memories of Beth into a big team to rebel against him. A lot of this plot with all the multiple versions of Beth teaming up reminded me of the whole idea of the Citadel of Beths. There have been a lot of theories about them having different multiverse teams of members of the family out there. We just saw the Jerry version of this in a previous episode. We've already seen a whole bunch of Mortys all teaming up together, so now we need to see a Citadel of Summers at some point too. Everybody on the show so far has had their own multiverse team except for Summer. Then he makes a joke about parents not wanting their kids to grow up too fast, like become self-aware too fast. Back in the real world, during C-137 Rick's battle, everybody starts calling him out for his commitment fears and problems. He portals home to undo what he did and put Diane back in his mind to try and prove them all wrong, repairs Space Beth, reviving her. Then because of the chaos going on with the memory Beths, Housebeth goes crazy in real life and can't tell reality from fiction. Memory Rick and Memory Diane start traveling through different memories of hers, which wind up actually being the events of previously this season and more recent events in the actual current episode that we're in. This is all to set up the bit with the different agent Beths all teaming up together against him. All these different episodes that they walk through are all from this season. The reason why they probably use this particular season instead of getting flashbacks from previous episodes is that they didn't have to reanimate too much stuff. Like, they already had all these assets the animators were working with while all these episodes were going on. They were all in production. There was actually an Invincible episode on Amazon in a previous season where they actually joked about the tricks that animators will use to save time and money and energy just because animation is so difficult. You start to see the memory versions of them pass through very, very recent memories, like her throwing the drink at Rick's ship in real life. Beth then makes the Thelma and Louise reference to driving the car off the cliff in a suicide pact, but because they're memory versions, Diane realizes that it's already happened in real life and Beth has already driven off the cliff. And because they're not going to kill her off the show either, Housebeth, she's saved by Space Beth and C-137 Rick in real life. They have another kung fu fight midair because she still has all those fight skills from the training in her head. Then tries to kill herself, and C-137 Rick comes into her memory, like they're still in the memory space because you can tell from the sky. acts in a very loving kind of way to distract her so that he can extract all the memories from her head so that it all goes back to normal and she goes back to being normal. Notice that he pulls all those out using the Morty's Mind Blowers device too. In the real world, Rick then talks to Beth about what Diane was really like your mother was different in real life. Then puts Memory Rick and Memory Diane in the Next Generation memory prison, paying off that Star Trek bit in the episode that he said he wanted to do, that Memory Rick wanted to do when he saved Memory Diane in the first place. Then says he's going to Morty's Mind Blowers himself so that he can forget that he ever did any of this.
So I'm gonna mind blow myself and forget this ever happened. You're on your own.
Fires their prison into deep space. Presumably, it's just going to travel space forever. Like, they'll just live out their lives. I also love the way that he's pissed off. Like, you get to be young forever and just do it with each other all the time. I'm so mad about this. Then implies that he's going to text Bug-Ann back and try to continue his relationship with her, like get back on the horse. Attempt commitment. During the post-credit scene, because this is the end of the season, they do another Mr. Poopy Butthole post-credit scene, which has been customary for previous seasons. They start with him commenting on the season, like season 8, breaking the fourth wall like he does in most of his post-credit scenes like this. But then following up on the Memory Rick and Memory Diane bit, it gets super meta when they make it seem like Mr. Poopy Butthole's ex-wife, Amy, has her own version of a memory Mr. Poopy Butthole trying to break into her life and replace her husband. Basically doing a more insidious version of what Memory Rick was trying to do. Previously, they'd shown that Mr. Poopy Butthole had been wanting to get back together with his ex-wife, who had since remarried, gotten together with somebody new since she divorced Mr. Poopy Butthole. They end the scene making it seem like she's actually going to have the other scientists destroy Memory Mr. Poopy Butthole. But remember, this wouldn't actually kill the regular, real-life version of Mr. Poopy Butthole in the Rick and Morty universe. Like, Mr. Poopy Butthole still exists after this. Just because it was the finale, there were so many references that they packed into this wall to wall. If there's anything you spotted in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. What's probably going to happen is that season 9 episodes will probably premiere around the same time that season 8 episodes did. Like, they're on a pretty usual schedule, maybe like a little bit later in the year by a couple weeks, but that's probably about it. Currently, the show has since been renewed for an additional 2 seasons through season 12. We'll see if they wind up doing a movie, but like I said, they've also picked up a spin-off show for President Curtis. Keith David is coming back for that. I'm assuming that Rick and Morty will also cross over on that. The family members will cross over onto it periodically, but it's mostly about President Curtis. Generally just sounds like it's going to be an X-Files type of show with him staying more local to Earth, investigating really paranormal, like really crazy types of stuff. But they have shown him in previous seasons going off-world, going to other dimensions. So we'll probably get a trailer for that sometime in the next year, but they didn't say exactly when that's going to premiere. You can let me know which other spin-offs you want to see Rick and Morty try. They did the Vindicators spin-off, so there have been other stuff that they've already gone to before this. There have been a couple experiments with other types of Rick and Morty shows, like they've done Rick and Morty the anime. That did not go so well, so hopefully the President Curtis show will go a little bit better than Rick and Morty the anime, but it is animated more in the style of traditional Rick and Morty. If you never bothered to watch Rick and Morty the anime, that was like a completely separate thing that was like its totally own separate thing that had no connection with the actual main show. And because it was Comic-Con weekend recently, there was a ton of footage, ton of really big announcements that happened the past couple of days. I'm trying to work through all the videos for everything because the Fantastic Four movie just came out. The Superman movie also just came out. It's just like a really big time. Like, we are really, really eating good right now. The cup runneth over with a bunch of big stuff happening all at the same time. I just posted my full breakdown and Easter eggs video for the entire Fantastic Four movie. Click here for that, and click here for all my other Rick and Morty episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.